I'm back with another what I eat in a week video, and I feel like what I ate this past week was really reflective of the weather outside. I was really trying to weave in some freshness and spring-like recipes that kind of remind me of this season. These types of foods generally make me feel really good, but they are also really delicious and enjoyable, and I always find it important to find balance between the two to make sure that the way I eat is actually sustainable over the long term, and maybe it will give you some inspo for what to cook the upcoming week. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm starting with an everyday morning coffee with oat milk, and since spring is full on here in Geneva, I like to have it on the balcony. I also revived an old habit where I would write a couple of things I'm grateful for in the morning, which literally takes just a couple of minutes, but it really sets my mood for the day. And I also find just spending a bit of time on the balcony with the plants quite relaxing and nice. For breakfast, I had something I actually have very often recently, and that's pumpernickel with cottage cheese, avocado, and soft-boiled eggs. Soft-boiled eggs actually always remind me of my grandma because she used to serve them for breakfast all the time when I was small, but she would actually serve them in these cute little egg pots, and I think I might actually purchase them as well, considering how frequently I make soft-boiled eggs these days. As a snack, I just had a super quick smoothie with frozen raspberries that I defrost with just a bit of hot water. I really prefer to use frozen berries, especially in winter or spring when it's not yet season for berries, because they are just so convenient and they never go bad. And actually, I find them to be better quality than the fresh ones that you would find in the store. I also added some scare for protein and banana for sweetness, and I also added some collagen peptides, which is just a powder that I like to use not necessarily for the specifications that they mention on the box, so it's like strong hair, strong nails, and so on. I actually use them for skin hydration because I really notice whenever I use them, my skin all over my body feels really plump and hydrated, so I really like them for that. For lunch, I had whole grain bread sandwich with hummus, turkey ham, and cucumber, which was really nice and refreshing, kind of spring vibes. After, I still felt a little bit hungry, so I mixed some yogurt with maple syrup and these chocolate-filled little pillows, which I saw at the store the other day, and they really reminded me of these breakfast flakes I would have when I was a kid, and I really loved them, so I just got them as a little treat. Then I sprinkled some actually fresh strawberries on top of it, and yeah, that was that. Later in the day, I went to the gym, and when I got back, I just wanted something really quick and light, so I made a simple salad with shredded rotisserie chicken, which we had left over from the weekend, and I actually always try to keep one on hand because it's a great quick protein source when you're short on time or don't feel like cooking. I added some canned lentils, cherry tomatoes, and roasted pumpkin seeds, and had it while watching Dexter with Mark. After dinner, I still felt a bit peckish, so I popped some fresh popcorn, which I find to be a great evening snack because it satisfies a salty craving, but it also has fiber and is quite filling considering the volume. And last but not least, I also had to satisfy a sweet craving, so I had a bit of this protein pudding, which really reminds me of a Dutch dessert called vla, which my parents would always bring back home when they would go to the Netherlands when I was small. So yeah, it just brings back some memories. The next day, I had a super quick breakfast, which was chia seeds with some fruit and yogurt. So basically, I let the chia seeds sit for 10 to 15 minutes in oat milk, mixing occasionally, and only then mixed in some yogurt to make sure there aren't any yogurt clumps in the chia pudding. I also added some mango, dried apricot, and almond butter, and of course I had it on the balcony. Then I went to a library in Geneva to work for a bit, and I just love springs in Geneva. It's so beautiful. The library is actually located in a really gorgeous park, so it's always nice to go there. When I got back home, I was in a bit of a hurry because I was meeting my ex-colleague very soon. So I made sweet potato fries, and I also defrosted some chicken meatballs, which I always try to have on hand. They are super easy to make and are actually perfect for these kinds of situations where you don't really feel like cooking or don't really have the time, but would still want to have tasty protein addition to your meal. I will link a video where I make them in case you would like to replicate it too. But yeah, they are just so convenient. I also chopped up some cucumber and made a sort of miseria, which is a Polish salad of cucumber, cream, and sometimes spring onion. I replaced cream with yogurt and just mixed everything together with some salt and pepper, and it's just a really nice and refreshing spring salad. So yeah, once the fries were ready, I just placed them on the plate, added the miseria and meatballs and also 2 fried eggs, and it was really so good. Then I went to see my ex-colleague and we went to a bar I've actually never been to, and it was so sweet because there was this evening of swing. And my colleague is actually also a magician, so he attempted to teach me a magic trick, but I was quite hopeless, to be honest. During the evening, I had way too much wine, and when I got back home, I was super hungry, so made a quick cheese and ham toastie with some ketchup, and that was that. On Wednesday, I started the day with quick scrambled eggs with turkey ham and some veggies. So basically, you just chop the turkey ham and some veggies. I chose paprika this time, but it goes just as well with zucchini or tomatoes or even beans. I then fried the turkey ham on a bit of butter, and once it was golden brown, I added the paprika. And I prefer to do it this way because otherwise the ham never gets crispy because the paprika makes it more of a stew. Then I just added eggs, salt and pepper and mixed it. I quite like my scrambled eggs not to be completely dry, so I don't cook them for very long. I then sprinkled with some spring onion and served with pumpernickel. Later in the day, as a snack, I had the same chocolate-filled squares I had the day before, with some milk this time. And for lunch, I had a quick raviolini that we get across the border in a French store. And they make all kinds of noodles that are fresh and really good. So this raviolini was actually filled with some type of ham. So I just boiled it and also cooked some frozen meatballs for extra protein. I melted some butter and mixed it with the pasta and meatballs and sprinkled some parmesan on top. So good. I did feel a little bit hungry after though, so I made a quick and fairly small sandwich with mustard, turkey ham and pickles. Then I went to see a new friend I actually met on Bumble, and I had absolutely no idea that you could also meet up potential friends on Bumble. I thought it was just a dating app, and honestly I've been loving it so far. Since I arrived in Geneva 2 years ago, I never really prioritized making friends because of my job and also because I just enjoy spending time alone. But since now I have more time while I'm looking for a job, it was the perfect time to also expand my social circle. And since I started using Bumble, I've met some really great people on there, so yeah, it's really great. I'm so pleased with it. I'm really grateful to my friend who actually mentioned it randomly a couple of months ago. So me and this potential new friend, we went to a cafe and had some wine, but I didn't film it because I didn't want to freak her out on like the first meeting. When I got home, I made some quick bruschettas with tomatoes, Greek yogurt and coriander. Super quick and filling. And that was that. Thursday breakfast was you guessed it, pumpernickel with some cottage cheese and smoked salmon for a change. Also added 2 soft-boiled eggs and spring onion. I really love this breakfast because it makes me feel light but still full throughout the morning. And I noticed that when I have regular bread, even if it's whole wheat with say avocado and eggs, I still feel a little bit more sluggish as compared to when I eat pumpernickel. And this is probably because pumpernickel is made of this coarsely ground rye as opposed to finely ground flour, which basically affects how quickly our body can digest it. Generally speaking, foods that are processed like this, so foods that are finer, blended or ground like flour, they are less of a job to digest by the body, which means the macronutrients from its digestion, such as carbs, will more quickly land in our bloodstream, and in the case of carbs, contribute to a higher and more rapid blood sugar spike and drop, which can then result in feeling a little bit more sluggish after eating. And these glucose spikes are modulated and sort of softened by, for example, eating carbs with protein, fats, or fiber. So it's actually a little bit surprising that combining whole wheat bread with avocado and eggs, which have protein, fats, and also fiber, still makes me feel a little bit sluggish, but that's what I noticed. And this of course doesn't mean that I stopped eating bread altogether. It's just that on days when I care about being productive and full of energy, I would probably choose pumpernickel over regular bread in the morning. But in any case, I had the breakfast on the balcony, which was great with the great weather and our plants finally coming to life. Later on Thursday, I was still craving seafood, so for lunch I made mussels, which I always like to make in spring and summer because they feel very refreshing. They are also relatively inexpensive compared to other types of fish, and they're really easy to make. So I first cleaned them and then started by frying some garlic in a little bit of butter. I added the mussels, half a glass of white wine, and a tiny bit of homemade broth which I had left over. As the mussels cooked, I chopped some parsley, and once the shells opened, I just mixed in the parsley and served it with a fresh baguette. I don't really know what it was, but they were a little bit underwhelming, to be honest. I don't know if I didn't season them enough, or maybe I should have added a little bit more garlic, but the memory of them from last year was definitely better than what they actually were. This portion also looked like a lot, but it wasn't. It was just 500 grams of mussels, which translates to just above 100 grams of mussel meat, which left me feeling a bit hungry, and so then I had a donut my boyfriend got a day before. We're actually watching Dexter these days, and Dexter always brings these boxes of donuts to the office, which make me crave donuts, and so we've been getting these regularly recently. After the donut, I was still a bit hungry, so I made a smoothie with bananas, collagen peptides, and some yogurt. And in the evening we went for a burger because my boyfriend will be away this weekend and we didn't want to give up our weekly tradition of having a burger on a Friday night, so we had it on Thursday. And that was it. On Friday, I started with a smoothie bowl with some granola. I just blended fresh pineapple, yogurt, a bit of banana, and also collagen peptides. It actually might seem like this collagen supplement is something I've recently added to my diet, but it's not. I've been using them for a while, but it's just recently that I actually started adding them to foods generally, because they don't taste very good on their own. I prefer to mask their taste with something else I'm eating. Then I added some granola on top and a strawberry, but just for aesthetics really, because I only had one left, and then sprinkled everything with pistachios. For lunch, I had a quick sandwich with avocado, salmon, and cottage cheese, which was followed by another sandwich, but just with salmon and cucumber. Then, as an evening snack, I had this rice pudding, which really reminds me of a pudding my grandma used to make, with rice milk and cinnamon. I'm not sure if it's a Polish thing, but we had it quite often when I was small. And then I finished off the day by making fish and chips while waiting for a high school friend who now lives with her husband close to Zurich and who's coming over for the weekend. She was arriving late, so I had dinner alone while Mark also went away for a weekend with his friends. So I started by chopping some potatoes. I like them quite thin and crispy, so I drained the water with a towel. I added a bit of oil and shoved them in the oven for about 30 minutes. And about halfway through, I added a piece of fish. I'm not even sure what kind of fish it was. It was on promotion, so that's why I grabbed it. It was actually quite similar to cod. It was quite neutral. The taste wasn't very strong, so it was actually quite perfect for fish and chips. And I served it with some guac with a little bit of onion. And that was Friday. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed and I'll see you soon. Bye.